Hello, guys. It's me again. Alrighty, so earlier today we read Genesis chapter 24, and that was talking about Abraham sending his servant on a mission to find Isaac a wife, specifically a woman from Abraham's family. And we find out that he finds Rebecca, and he brings Rebecca to Isaac, and they hit it off. All right, now let's go ahead and get into Genesis chapter 25. Avraham took another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Yokshan, Medan, Midian, Yishbak, and Shuach. Yokshan fathered Sheva and Dedan. The sons of Dedan were Ashurim, Letushim, and Leumim. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Avidah, and Eldaah. All these were descendants of Keturah. So we see here that Abraham had a second wife after Sarah, and he has all of these sons and daughters. So it's going more into detail, just like earlier in Genesis when it talks about the descendants of Adam. So it's more genealogies here and more to add to the timeline, basically, and the genealogies and stuff like that. And I think there will be a Google Doc on genealogies too that I'll be making. So I'll let you guys know when that's in the works and when it's done. Anyway, Avraham gave everything he owned to Yitz'chak, but to the sons of the concubines he made grants while he was still living and sent them off to the east, to the land of Kedem, away from Yitzhak his son. So I don't know if Kedem is another word for the like the Chaldean area, which is like Mesopotamia, but a little further east than that. That might be where he sent them, but we do know he sent them to the east, away from the promised land, the land of Canaan, Israel, basically. He sent them out of that country, well, out of that general area, further east. This is how long Avraham lived, 175 years. Then Avraham breathed his last, dying at a ripe old age, an old man full of years, and he was gathered to his people. Yitzhak and Yishmael his sons buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Sochar the Hittite, by Mamre, the field which Avraham purchased for the sons of Het, or from the sons of Het, Avraham was buried there with Sarah his wife. After Avraham died, God blessed Yitzhak his son, and Yitzhak lived near Be'er Lachairoi. Here is the genealogy of Yishmael, Avraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian woman bore to Avraham. These are the names of the sons of Yishmael, listed in the order of their birth. The firstborn of Yishmael was Nebayot, followed by Kedar, Ad Beel, Mivsam, Mishma, Duma, Masa, Hadad, Tema, Yetur, Naphish, and Kedma. These are the sons of Yishmael, and these are their names according to their settlements and camps, 12 tribal leaders. So we see here there's 12 sons of Ishmael, and later on there will be 12 sons of Israel. So that's kind of cool that Ishmael also, got 12 sons just like Israel. Yishma. What does Yishma? Yishma. So anybody who's studied Hebrew, and I haven't really studied Hebrew all that much, but their names, and I've talked about this before, their names, when they're, from the research that I've done, when a child was born, they waited until the eighth day when they were to get circumcised to pick a name. Now, obviously, this wouldn't be the case for Ishmael because he was circumcised at 13, but maybe there was some kind of tradition where they did that on the eighth day as well. I have no clue. But traditionally, after the whole circumcision on the eighth day thing was a thing, they would wait 8 days to pick a name for a child, right? And during that 8 days, they would observe that child's personality, right? And then they would pick a name based on, that child's personality throughout that 8 days. Sometimes they would make a name, at birth, during birth, and we see that earlier on. Actually, no, we'll see it. We'll see it later on. Actually, as more children are introduced, a lot of them are given names around the time of their birth. Some of them after, but that's how they were named. So when you see Yishmael, which is Ishmael, it's Yishma, which means something, and then it's also El, right, which means God. So it means it's some kind of attribute to God, and I can't remember. We read over it a couple of chapters ago, but I cannot remember what Ishmael means. I'm going to see if we can find it. I'm sorry. There it is. God pays attention. So, El Yishma is how you would say God of paying attention, right? So, Yishmael would probably be like listening God, or like literally it would be listening God, or, God who listens, God who pays attention. Attentive God might be what it is. So Yishmael, right, is God pays attention, but Israel, right, which is Isra and then El, is I can't remember exactly what it is, but I think it's one who struggles with God and prevails is basically what it is, but I don't know the literal translation of it. Hopefully one day that will be revealed to me and I'll be able to share it with you guys. Anyway, where we at? This is how long Ishmael lived, 137 years. Then he breathed his last, died, and was gathered to his people. Ishmael's sons lived between Havilah and Shur, near Egypt as you go toward Ashur, which is Assyria. He settled near all his kinsmen. So that's... we know that Hagar traveled toward the Negev, which is the south country, the southern country of Egypt. Or not Egypt, I'm sorry, Israel. And they lived by Egypt in, as you go to Ashur, which is Assyria, which is that southern Middle East, those countries, Saudi Arabia and stuff like that in that area. Here is the history of Yitz'chak, Avraham's son. Avraham fathered Yitz'chak. Yitz'chak was 40 years old when he took Rivkah, the daughter of Betuel, the Arami, from Padan Aram, and sister of Lavan the Arami, to be his wife. So Isaac was 40 years old when he met and married Rebekah. Yitz'chak prayed to Adonai on behalf of his wife because she was childless. Adonai heeded his prayer, and Rivkah became pregnant. The children fought with each other inside her so much that she said, "If it is going to be like this, why go on living?" So she went to inquire of Adonai, who answered her, These are two nations in your womb. From birth they will be two rival peoples. One of these peoples will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. When the time for her delivery came, there were twins in her womb. The first to come out was reddish and covered all over with hair, like a coat, so they named him Esav, completely formed, that is, having hair already. Then his brother emerged with his hand holding Esav's heel. So he was called Ya'akov. He catches by the heel. He supplants. Now, basically, somebody who supplants things is somebody who, supplants. Oh, man. I think I got a dictionary around here somewhere. We'll look at that later. But anyway, where are we at? Yaakov is also translated as deceiver, right? So we kind of see what kind of people they are, by their name. Esav, completely formed, right? And that was because he came out hairy, he came out like a man, you know what I mean? That's why. And then his brother, right? Hairy, right? Kind of burly, picturesque picture that kind of guy. Like, that's who Esav is. And then Yitz'chak, somebody who catches by the heels, somebody who supplants. That's like a slippery, slick kind of guy, you know what I mean? Almost snake-like is what it sounds like to me. But anyway, we kind of get the character of these two people based on their name, and that's what I was trying to relay earlier. You get the character of somebody by their name, at least Hebrew names. My name, as far as I know, isn't at, like, it may not be rooted in Hebrew, but Alexei, apparently, it's a Russian name, but it has its origin in Greek, and I think that means defender or protector. I'm not too sure on that. That was like internet searches a very, very long time ago, like middle school, high school. So information may be false, but then again, I don't know, considering I've been, not tooting my own horn, but I've been known to be very, very defensive and protective, especially when it comes to arguments. I always have some kind of defense or stuff, or I'm always defending something, always trying to protect something. But like I said, if that's really what the name is, then I guess I'd say I'd fit that pretty well, but I digress. Anyway, where are we at? Yitz'chak was 60 years old when she bore them. So he married her when he was 40. Married her when he was 40. And for 20 years, she wasn't having a child. She wasn't bearing children. And I'm sure during that entire 20 years, Isaac had been praying for her. Now, if this isn't a picture of what men should be doing for their wives, then I don't know what is. And I say that, but really it should be both ways. Spouses should pray for their spouse, right? Husbands should pray for their wives. Wives should pray for their husbands, right? There is a scripture in the New Testament, a verse in the New Testament that says, pray for your spouse, because, your prayer might be the prayer that God answers to send them on the right path, which is a very good thing. And I think the context of the letter was talking about couples that were divided in the faith, like one spouse. Firstly, like both of them were in a marriage relationship before they found Christ, and one of them found Christ and the other was having their doubts about it. And people were, wondering whether or not they should separate. And Paul was talking and saying, well, if both of you guys want to separate, right, then you have the full right to do so. But if they don't want to separate, right, and you're the one who found your faith and they don't want to separate, right, then he encourages those couples to stay couples, right, but still pray for them, because paraphrasing his words, he says, who knows, maybe your prayers are what, maybe your godly acts in that relationship, brings attention to, how people are supposed to be in a relationship, and then that brings praise to God. And then you might also, through your godly actions, end up saving your spouse somewhere down the line. All right, that's why it's always good to pray. Now, we shouldn't be praying for like selfish reasons, like praying for somebody because you want something out of it. No, I don't do that. Pray for them because they need it, right? And it's beneficial to them first before it's beneficial to you, right? Happy spouse, happy house, right? So pray for your spouse. And I say happy spouse, happy house because if one of you is happy and the other one is not, that other person's happiness is going to get drained, right? And that you don't even need to be in any kind of intimate relationship to know that that's how it goes, right? So pray for your spouse. Love on your spouse. Even though you guys are one, right? There are things that they deal with that you may not have to deal with, and vice versa. So it's always good to lend an ear. Okay. Continuing. The boys grew, and Esav became a skillful hunter and outdoorsman, while Ya'akov was a quiet man who stayed in the tents. So, like I said, right, just from his name, you can see that Esav being completely formed, right? Now that he's growing up, he's become a skillful hunter. He's an outdoorsman. He loves the outdoors. He's, big lumberjack kind of a guy, whereas Esav is more of that quiet, reserved geek that's always, on the computers in our day. Always in his house on the computer playing video games. That's kind of Jacob, and I can relate to that, even though I've got hair. And the funny thing, my mom told me that when I was born, I had a lot of hair. Maybe not as much as Esav. I didn't come out with a full-blown beard like Esav may have, but she definitely said I had a lot more hair on me than most babies would. And it scared her because she said that she thought I was a werewolf because apparently there was some like news special that was going on about like really hairy people that look like werewolves and stuff like that. I don't know, but it was on around the time that I was born, and when I was born, I had all that hair, and she thought I was one of those people. It's kind of crazy, but funny how I was being born similar to what Esav looked like, but I've got a personality more like Jacob. That's best of both worlds, I guess. Yitz'chak favored Esav because he had a taste for game, right? And Rivka favored Yaakov. One day, when Yaakov had cooked some stew, Esav came in from the open country, exhausted, and said to Yaakov, "Please, let me gulp down some of that red stuff. I'm exhausted." This is why he was called Edom, which means red. Yaakov answered, "First sell me your rights as the firstborn." So here we see he's already trying to manipulate and, supplant. "Look, I'm about to die," said Esav. "What use to me are my rights as the firstborn?" Yaakov said, "First, swear to me." So he swore to him, thus selling his birthright to Yaakov. Then Yaakov gave him bread and lentil stew. He ate and drank, got up, and went on his way. Thus Esav showed how little he valued his birthright. So, in the culture of that day, birthrights are very important. Now, I kind of see where Esav is coming from, right? If you're going to die, what use is firstborn rights? You know what I mean? What use is birthrights if you're going to die soon? And I get that, right? Survival is a thing, but still, to sell away your whole life basically for one meal, we got to be smarter than that, guys. I'm sorry, my legs are getting tired. Not good. Not good at all that he would do something like that. And it's not good on his brother to take advantage of somebody's hard times to make a quick deal. Not good, guys. We shouldn't be doing that. But we see here that selling away your birthright, and we may not have birthrights like that nowadays, but we definitely do have a birthright with Christ. You know what I mean? Especially since we're born again, right? We're born into that greatness that is the afterlife and all the good things that come with it. We shouldn't sell it away we shouldn't sell something eternal, right? We shouldn't sell something eternal like that away for some kind of temporary material thing, because that stuff passes away, right? We should have Esav's attitude about the cares of this world, right? We should have his attitude about that birthright, but towards those things, right? That stuff, what good is any of that if the birthright that I have through Christ is the greatest thing, even though it's not something physical right now, right? We can't hold it in our hands, but it still has value. It may not have material value because the world can't put a price on that, right? But there is a lot of value in it spiritually, and that's something that we should hold on to, and it's not something we should sell away for a moment of pleasure in anything. And that speaks levels to me, because like I said in a couple of videos before, I've got my problems, everybody's got their problems, and it seems like the best thing to do to give away your birthright for something so, something that seems so necessary and dire in one point, but once you get that that meal and you get up and you go on your way, you're like, was it really worth all of that? And then you've come to find out later on that it wasn't. Anyway, that was Genesis chapter 25. We got Genesis chapter 26 and 27 for tomorrow. And since that was Genesis chapter 25, I will do my best to get the updated version of the timeline and the instructions to man, hopefully in about 24 hours. But we'll see how well I do with that. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful night. I'll be praying for you. If you need prayer, just let me know. You guys have a wonderful night.